Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. Just a couple of days after the end of Passover. And we'd like to start this evening with a portion of Kedoshim. Kedoshim, which means holy. And we are on volume 16 in the English, page 45. Okay, so let's get started with Ellen, please.
Rabbi Shimon says that the souls of Adam and Eve came from such a high place that no one could look at their great light and beauty. Only after they sinned was Adam even able to look at Eve and recognize her for the purpose of mating. We learned that men should not look at women lest they be tempted and acquire bad thoughts that will come to them in the night. It is worse still if a man is mating with his wife and has thoughts about other women, as this results in the birth of impure children.
We could talk just an hour just about the synopsis, but we'll carry on. ותננן שפירו דאדם כתירה דכתרה אילה, מזהרה דנהרה, שפירו דחווה, דלהבו יכלין כל בריין, להסתכלה בה, ואפילו אדם לה הווה הסתכל בה. עד ההוא זמנה דחאבו, והדיעת שפירו דלהון כדין הסתכל בה אדם. וישתמודה בא לשמשה בה, הדאו דכתיב וידע אדם עוד את אשתו, וידע בחולה, וידע דתשמיש, וידע דאשתמודה בה, ויסתכל בה.
We learn that the beauty of Adam came from the glow of the supernal knot of the brightness that shines, being the secret of the glow of Abba, since he had a neshama of the neshama of Abba, of Azilut. The beauty of Eve was such that no creature could look at her, since her neshama of Ima of Azilut. Even Adam did not look at her until the time they sinned and their beauty was removed. Only then could Adam look at her and recognize her for the purpose of mating. This is the essence of the verse. And Adam knew his wife again. He knew her in everything. He knew her through mating, that is, knew in the recognized her and saw her.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are a few things that we can discuss here, a few topics, and some of them PG, some of them rated R. We'll try to stay with a PG rate. So here we're talking about beauty, levels of connection, and in relation to that connection, in relation to that elevation, can a man see or be shown something about that creature or this individual and whatnot. So this has to do with our level of consciousness, but also has to do with the level of consciousness of, of who's in front of us. So we can talk about things that are tangible and also things that are intangible. For instance, there are certain opportunities that could have been right in front of your nose for a month, for a week, for years, and you didn't see it. And then when the moment came and you were ready, after you went through so much, that suddenly it was shown to you. But once it is shown to you, you're like, how could I be so silly or stupid or whatever? Like, how did I not see it before? It was right in front of me. So it can be an opportunity, but it can also be, I've heard this about soulmates, that a person has had on and off a relationship, friendship with a certain individual, and years go by. This one has a relationship with those people. These, like each their own path, and not being successful at it. And then after they went through whatever they needed to go through, suddenly a path opens, and and it occurs to them, why not? Why not try, or whatever? And then suddenly it clicks, and they both think, how could I have not been able to see this? It was right in front of me. How could we have been blind? After all those years, we were right next to each other. That goes also for business partners, also all sorts of endeavors and choices that we make in life. If it was all this time next to us, by us, in front of us, why is it that we couldn't see it? And obviously, we're not talking about the physical side, even though we're using the expression, how come I didn't see it? How come I didn't realize that it was there to begin with? And so the Zohar here gives us like a little hint about certain things that were shown to Adam and Eve, and before the sin of Adam, and then after the sin of Adam, they were able to see other things that were maybe lower in nature, but they were able to see it once they sort of like downgraded their level of connection. So there are certain opportunities, people that will be introduced to your life if you increase your frequency, elevate your consciousness, and vice versa, like different opportunities and people and encounters that will come forth if you lower your consciousness. Those things would be introduced to you, to us. And so this is why, we can always say, these terrible things happened to me, or this good thing happened to me. I'm so happy since this and this and this happened to me. And then we give credit, maybe in many times, we give credit to that opportunity or this person that brings me so much joy and so much inspiration and so much encouragement and so much, and whatever it is. And we don't realize, but wait a second, it all starts with me, it all begins with me, right? From what the Zohar is telling us here, if you are acquiring a higher level of consciousness, what would be brought to you would be of a higher frequency, would be of a nature that would match where your consciousness is. And if we have a moment of down, and it happens to all of us, in those moments of down, we make choices that are not so beneficial, not so good to us. We know the consequences, but they're not matching, our level of consciousness. If we were in a good mood, and we were happy, and we were hopeful, and we were excited about life and about projects and about things. So it really is always, no matter what it is that is coming at us or coming for us, we are the director of that movie. Oftentimes we don't like to hear it because, we like to hear it when it's good things, but we do not like to hear it when bad things happen to us. How can we be the masters, or how can we be the director of that specific movie when the outcome is bad? When the person that has been introduced to our lives is a cheater, or is a manipulator, or is a narcissist, or is a person that is looking to take advantage of us or whatnot. How can that be our choice? How can I be the director of that specific movie? And in this entire section that we're reading, and again, I didn't even get started with a portion. We're just reading the synopsis in the first verse. And like, if we go like a little bit deeper, and there are no limits to the depth that this can go, that this can go to. And I'll give you an example. Here he talks about the glow of the brightness that shines, out of Adam and Eve, being the secret of the glow of Abba, which is Chokhmah, since he had neshama of the neshama of Abba of Atzilut. So those are levels upon levels upon levels upon levels. At some point I spoke about it when we study the 10 elements emanation. There is the tree of life, Keter to Malchut, but each of the Sphira has within different levels, 10 Sphirot. And within each one of those 10 sfirot, there is it is basically endless. And the deeper we go, and I would say the deeper we go in our consciousness and in our elevation, that we can really practically do our spiritual work. Let's just put it this way. And so even if Adam did not look at her until the time that they sinned, the Zohar isn't really going into it, because before the sin, there was no need to look, like they were beyond the senses. There was just endless light. They are the seed soul of all the sparks of souls that exist today and that would come until the end of correction. And now there is like a deluge, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, of all those souls that are flowing onto the earth, because each soul that has ever been created has to be born, to incarnate in order to contribute some level of a lifetime of correction. So it's like everybody has to participate. And the courageous, the strong souls, they are the ones that are keeping on coming and coming and coming, because it's a tryout. It's like, imagine that this physical reality, it's a matrix, and we keep on reincarnating until we are going to break the matrix, until we open our spiritual eyes. And we start, there are a lot, like we're talking more about people that are opening their eyes, awakening to spirituality, to elevation, to meditation, to see the good, consciousness, etc., more today than ever before. So we can also say that as much as there is an increasing number of souls that are elevated, there are at least an equal part of souls that are basically flowing down to earth, and they're looking to basically participate, but unfortunately they waited sort of like the last moment to do that. And so this is why, for all those new souls, it's harder, it's harsher than to the souls that are keeping on coming back. So likely, if you're sitting here and what I'm saying makes sense to you, then likely the chance it's not the first time that you're doing this. It's not the first time that you are at it. Why? Because the new souls, the ones that are on the level of Malchut, those layers of souls incarnated, they have no interest in spirituality yet. So it's like they are immature and they are not responsible, and they only care about the five senses. It's like the level of the Malchut. So as we are interested more into self-transformation and awakening and spirituality and sharing, we care about people, we love people that are beginning in their spiritual stage, they're not, it's not that they're not interested, like they only care about themselves, so they're very selfish. And we can judge also, from our pedestal, because we are in a place where we're more sharing and we're more caring, so it's a more elevated state compared to them, but we are coming from the same place because at some point we began that process. And so because also in the spiritual realms, there is no time and space, and so when a person dies, we are basically being recovered into this pool of souls, and we are all equal, we are all in oneness. Now, going back to Adam and Eve, before being introduced to the sin of Adam, which a lot of commentators are saying that this process was necessary. Why was it necessary? Why was the level of descent in their level of consciousness was necessary for them to go through? Anybody has an opinion on that?
I think, Yehuda?
Yes.
I think when God created us, or Abba, he created us in his own image, and full of his light, to walk with him. This is my personal, the way I kind of try to make sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know how it's possible to want to be in that presence and want to take the one fruit that's forbidden when everything was there. But I guess God wanted us to make the choice because he created us in his own image, therefore giving us the ability to think and make a choice. And maybe he knew this was all going to happen, or she, or whatever people want to think. And it began the story.
That's good. Thank you for sharing. One more person. So a good angle to that is somebody that I listened to that went through a lot in his life. And making a long story short, he's in a place where he's met with success. Good for him. But the thing that he was sharing with everybody was that let it alone that if a person isn't going through nothingness, meaning having nothing, once that person rises to a place where that person has, he wouldn't have an appreciation to the newly acquired fortune. And fortune, I'm not necessarily speaking about money, because that can be a relationship, it can be children, and it can be riches of physical nature. And he demonstrated that with people, for example, that are born like in the oil industry. And like it can be like in Texas, or it can be like in Saudi Arabia, or whatever, like a prince from Qatar, or Abu Dhabi, or wherever. And they're born into money, swimming into money. And so for them to buy a Ferrari, or to fly in a private jet, or to have all the men or all the girls that they want in their lives, and live a luxurious life, for them it's not like they're born with it. So it's not like they need to struggle to have that. Maybe they struggle for other things, but at least with the 1% accomplishment, they do not. And so his conclusion was that in order for somebody to appreciate having something, you needed to go through a process of not having it, or a process of loss to appreciate. Because if you're born with having everything, then it's very hard, or it's harder to appreciate having what everybody else is lacking. And so this is equal to the soul's nature of all of us combined, that if we are born not having, once we acquire it, the level of appreciation and being grateful is so much greater than if we were born having it all. And so that goes without saying about physical things, but also about relationship and luck, or anything else that could basically apply to that. And so the descent of Adam and Eve, where they had everything, and they come into an existence of a world where there is nothing, and they need to work for it. Once they accomplish it and they taste it, but with the removal of the bread of shame, because the removal of the bread of shame is that you're born with it, and there is no appreciation for it. And so once we have removed that bread of shame through the process of earning, can we truly appreciate what we've always had? And so that's the interesting part. It is that whatever we're seeking is already ours. It's like, imagine that whatever we're dreaming about, we already have it. but we need to go through the process of retrieving it. And so what stops us from not seeing those things is time, space, and motion. Once we go through what needs to be learned, whatever was ours is suddenly being shown to us. And when it is being shown to us, that's when everything clicks. Opportunities, encounters, meetings, chances, luck. Suddenly everything turns right. But when it's not the right time, things seem to be stuck. And so the fall of Adam is not necessarily a fall. It is part of the process for all humanity, because without the fall, without the sin of Adam, all of us would not have the opportunity to earn back, to retrieve back what we lost as a one soul appreciation for. And so imagine that you were married, or you had a really good relationship, or you had, your kids, and you lost all that because there was not enough appreciation. We were taking it for granted. And that happens all the time when we take things for granted, when we do not appreciate, when there is a lack of respect and lack of care, lack of love. That's when we lose things. And when we lose the things, suddenly you have people that are like rushing into, okay, but how can I save it? What do you mean save it? It was like years in the making. You can't save it like in 15 minutes or in the next week or so to say that I'm swearing that I'm going to change. I am a different person. Change is not an easy thing. We're here to change. We're here to transform. We're here to let go of, whatever baggages we are holding on from this life and previous lifetime. We're here to learn. And this learning process can take a lifetime, can take a few lifetimes. And we need to be patient with our process. Patience is not a human gift. We do not have that innate gift that comes with us. All of us, want that specific things that we're craving for us to be already done, accomplished yesterday, and unfortunately without effort. That defeats the purpose. So that is also when we're struggling with different challenges. When we are struggling with a challenge, it is us not accepting to see the lesson. Because if there is a challenge, it is us being in friction with the lesson, being in friction with what the universe is trying to teach us, and we're pushing back. Instead of, the Zohar would call it like a broken vessel. A broken vessel is a person that surrenders. And in order to surrender to the universe, okay, my ego is done. Like my ego was like punched like all over the place. I'm ready to listen. Unfortunately, in so many ways, the biggest blessings would come through the biggest ego and the biggest pride that we have a hard time to let go of. And we're dealing with this ego day in and day out. And we're here to break all these different layers so that we can uncover another layer of blessing and another layer of blessing. But again, once it is being shown to us, it clicks. And so what Adam was shown, what once there was the sin of Adam, could he see that he could procreate with Eve? But it's interesting that it doesn't say and Adam and Eve had sex. Like there is no mention of that anywhere. It talks about Adam knew Eve. So even after the sin of Adam, it was a different level of procreation, I would say, because it was on the level of mind over matter. The level of Adam and Eve, however we're trying to conceptualize it, we're talking about people that lived like 900 years. and that were like the seed level of all the souls before the 10 commandments. And again, the 10 commandments: do this, don't do that. It's not a question of, God telling human beings, what to do and what not to do. It's just that those things were not introduced to our reality until Abel and Cain. The idea of death did not materialize. It only materialized after Cain was jealous and then basically killed, but not knowing what killing is, right? So all those things were introduced as they were going. And so the reverse works the same way. So everything stems from our consciousness. There are some of our thoughts, some of our desires that are pure, and some of them that are not, that are less pure. And we need to start our process by admitting or acknowledging that most of our thoughts, most of our desires are not 100% pure. Why? Because we're not living yet in a bliss state. We're not living in a place where we are like 1,000% fulfilled and there is no aggravation and nothing annoys us, and we're like right up there, and we're here to share with the world our good positive energy, and I'm done with my correction, and come so I can bless you. We're not there yet. So we might one day, I don't know when that is going to be, but the idea is that as long as we're here, there is more to be learned, and there is more to be done, and we need to be honest with ourselves, and that level of honesty can bring us to a better level of humility, and that humility can help us with our elevation at no matter what the stage is. The next verse, I'll put it back on the screen. ותננן אסיר לילה ברנש להסתכלה בשפירו דהין תתה בגין דלה יתה בערעורה בישה והתעקר למילה אחרה וכך עבר רבי שמעון אבד. כדבה הזל במתה ואבו חבריה אזלין אבטרה וחמה לעינתו שפירן מעינך מאיך ענה ואבה אמר לחבריה אל תפנו. Okay.
We learn that it is prohibited for a man to look at the beauty of a woman to prevent him from acquiring bad thoughts and being torn into another thing, meaning that a drop of semen will be torn from him in vain. So did Rabbi Shimon behave when he came to the city. The friends followed him, and when he saw beautiful women, he lowered his eyes and told the friends not to look.
Okay, so we needed to be a little cautious with this verse because it can be turned into, I would say, like a religious precept, because the Zohar is not teaching us a set of rules, do this and do that, and then obey them religiously. So if we do that and we become religious, then we are losing the opportunity to tap into the consciousness, the elevated consciousness behind each and every single one of those precepts. So what the Zohar here is telling us, and it's very straightforward, and we can find this in so many other places in the Torah, the Talmud, the Gemara, where he talks here, for example, about Joseph the righteous. And the Zohar and the Ari speak about the fact that when Joseph had a thing with the wife of Potiphar, and they were in love, and at some point they were in bed together, and they were naked. It's not describing if anything happened, but because of the desire that was awakened, Joseph lost 10 drops of semen, without going into the details. But energetically, those 10 drops of semen reincarnated into the 10 spies that went into Israel and came back with negative reports. This is like the Ari going into like reincarnations and things like that. But bringing it back to our sphere, to our level of, let's say, understanding, if a man walks the street and across the street or across the aisle when you go to the supermarket sees a beautiful, attractive woman and dwells into that image and starts fantasizing, that simple sequence can cause a man to lose drops of semen. This is what the Zohar says, not only as a metaphor, but as a true reality that with our conceptualization of our mind, it's even been proven, like I'm jumping, but it's basically the same thing. It has been studied in Yale University, maybe, or one of those like top leagues universities, that there was two groups of students that were tested with electrodes on their brain and whatnot, and a group of them were actually eating delicious chocolate, and in the next room of testing, the group of students were asked to visualize and to imagine eating delicious, well-described cubes of chocolate. The brain reacted exactly the same way, with the same indications, the same results, the same data. One group was just imagining doing it, and another was actually doing it. And the Zohar here tells us that it's, let me go back because I don't want to make this up. Okay, we definitely are not going to read the next paragraph, but if you're interested, look into it. Just, don't have any nightmares. Well, what the Zohar here is telling us is that it is enough for a person to think. So if he is married and while he's having intercourse with his wife and he fantasizes doing what he's doing with another woman, it is considered the same as cheating. So, you could debate it, but it's not the same thing. Like he's, making love with his wife, and even if he's thinking like nobody else besides him knows it, right? But the Zohar here is very specific that here you just planted a negative seed that created an energy that has to match. Remember, we spoke at the beginning that whatever consciousness we are generating, we are going to match, or reality is going to match that consciousness that we project. And so if it is an elevated consciousness, we'll draw particles of consciousness, events, encounters, opportunities that are going to match that elevated state of mind, and vice versa. So if you do something like that, and it can be considered as a lower consciousness, because the higher consciousness, when spouses are having intercourse, the ultimate consciousness is one of sharing with your spouse, not one of sharing with somebody outside of your sphere, outside of your family that you're committed to, that you're engaged to. And so if you do, then that could be considered as a lower frequency. So because of that lower frequency is being created and generated in this moment, so, it creates, or it draws a negative soul into being. And so this is why it always says, that one of the main reasons that we should have at having intercourse, even when we are not in a position to procreate anymore after menopause and whatever, like all sorts of reasons. There are also people that are sterile and they can't have children. even then, the thoughts and the consciousness needs to be of sharing and of procreating. Why? Because, first of all, of cause and effect. So whatever has brought an individual to be lacking, to be struggling with procreation, for example, it's the effect, it's not the cause. It is the effect of whatever was accumulated, brought upon, or generated, created by this individual has brought him to where he or she is right now. And so the consciousness that is injected during that time is what would draw an equal consciousness. And so this is why we want to make sure that in this moment of maximum opportunities to draw light into our lives, into marriage, into drawing children into this couple, into this family, and it's quantum energy, right? So whatever is being thought in that time can affect everything that is in our life, that is your relationship with your children, that is your health, that is going to be the reminiscence of your future lifetime with this individual or with another individual, with this soulmate or another soulmate. We don't know when the things are being planted, in what time and space. And so this is why we basically, fortunately and unfortunately, have to watch over our consciousness all the time, but especially in those moments where we are potentially drawing a big capacity of light, such as intercourse, is when we draw a max of light. Another opportunity is when we pray. Another opportunity is when we meditate. It's when we share. It's when we elevate through doing blessings on certain things. There are a multitude of opportunities where we have opportunities to create, to be the creator over our lives and over anything that is taking place in our life, in this lifetime and the next. And so we want to keep this in mind. But the Zohar here is, at least from my angle, the way that I see it, is giving us so much consciousness about how important it is, what crosses our mind when we do certain things, especially when we have the ability, the capacity to draw light. If those things are mundane, like you go and you play tennis, I wouldn't say, okay, no, like, you're going to play tennis for 2 hours. You need to consistently think about, we need to be as spiritual as we can be, like, most of the time. But, if I am going to play tennis for 2 hours, I'm going to be the most selfish and competitive person ever. I need to win, and I'm the most sore loser. Maybe I needed to exercise what I'm preaching right now when I'm playing tennis. Just don't ask my wife. When I play with her, I would say that I always win, even if she crushes me each time. She's very good in tennis. But I'm just a very sore loser. This is why, by the way, you would not see me gamble. I hate losing. I'm just a sore loser. And that's why I don't go to the casino. Like, I went once or twice, I think, to the casino, and I put like $100 in to play the machines, and one time to play poker, and I lost it like just like that in 2 minutes. I hated it. I hated every second of it. So this is why, like, I swore to myself, like, no, no more. That's it. So, like, it's really not good. Like, I have like suddenly like all these images that are coming up to my mind. Maybe I need to do a teshuvah redemption about it, because I remember the last time that it happened was with my daughter, who is 7 years old. I played cards with her and I cheated because I didn't want to lose because she's so good at it. But I confessed, I told her that I cheated. So anyway, it's just one of those things. So at the end of the day, we need to be in a place where we are increasing a bit the capacity of or our ability to project positive things, hopeful things, forgiving, accepting, surrendering, so that we don't wait for the universe to smack us in the back of our head to force us to surrender. When we're being forced to surrender, it's because the lesson has been tried to be taught to us for so long that even the light says, okay, come on, let's get going with this one and then move on to the next. But just to keep that in mind, we can have an easier process that is made with less hurdle, less pain. I'm not saying less challenges, because we need those downs. And if you think about it, everything goes through up and down. It's not just the stock market, real estate. Everything goes through up and down. Our mood goes through ups and down. We're not like just like hype and super happy all the time. Why? Because that is the rule of this game of the tree of knowledge, good and bad. Everything abides by this rule. But once we are done with this roller coaster, by letting go and correcting everything that our soul committed to fix and elevate and learn, then we're ready for the bliss, whenever that bliss is. There are countless of souls that are way done with, with this masquerade of like 2 lifetimes, 10 lifetimes, 100 lifetimes. They're way done, and they're just waiting for the rest of us to finish. By the way, if you think about it, we are the lazy ones. Even though we are on a stage that we're more spiritual than the majority, we can say that. We are more spiritual than the majority. That gives us also a sense of responsibility to help the people around us to catch up. And for us to be less judgmental over the ones that are pulling their legs at catching up, meaning to be more patient and understanding and forgiving and trying again. And sometimes it's going to take 400 times at trying again with our patience and re-explaining and teaching it again. Because at the end of the day, each and every single one of us is a vessel, but is also a teacher. And we need to be willing to learn when we are the vessel, and we need to be willing to teach when it's our opportunity to share. And whenever that comes, that both sides opportunity come to us, we just need to be more receptive with the universe. What does the universe want to show me right now? Because at every given moment, something is being shown to me. And if I'm struggling, it's not clicking. I'm being stubborn with the process. And if it clicks and it is being shown to me and it makes total sense, and I'm able to embrace whatever processes I'm going through right now, and I'm going to the next stage. And by the way, the next stage is going to be a restart of that same process. It's going to be a little bit harder, and it's going to be difficult until, same thing, it's being shown to me and I'm ready to receive, I'm ready to learn. And in other instances, I'm ready to share, because we always have the Ari gives that example of a candle that moves, like the flame of the candle that moves back and forth. We are the same. A given moment, like 5 minutes ago, we were the recipient. We needed to learn something. We needed to accept something. We needed to surrender to whatever the universe was trying to show me. And then 5 minutes later, I need to be in the position of being like the light, being the teacher, being the patient teacher. Not the teacher that, like force feed, the duck so that we can eat the kavedavas. Just thought about food anyway. But the main idea is that we consistently swing between those two opportunities, and it is being shown to us every step of the way what the light is trying to use as us. Vessel, light, vessel, and light. Okay. That's it for tonight. Any question? All good then. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you same time next week.
Thank you, Yehuda. Thank you,
Thank
Yehuda.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Yehuda.
A bientôt.
A bientôt.